In this video, we're going to make a simple RC claw or a servo claw. The RC claw lets you pick up objects or move them around. And in this case, we're using a simple RC servo with a rubber hose attached. And of course, you need to have opposing forces when you make a claw, and that's what these two do here. The jack harness makes up the other side of the claw. And essentially by controlling the servo, we can open and close it. So if I open it now and then close it, and the thing is you can do this from the drive page. So basically in part one of this video, we're going to just build up the claw, which is this part here. And then in part two, we will put the commands into the drive page that let you control the claw and the robot from the drive page. So you can make it open and close, go backwards, a little bit left, a little bit right, which makes it a lot easier to pick up and approach objects like a ball. Here are some resources to go with this video. The first one is all about RC servos. The second one covers the motor drive. And the third one is a video that just deals with attaching the drive motors to the JackBord. And finally, the level 1 control section contains some activities that you can do for RC servos and for the motors. To get to these resources, just go to jb.works and enter the TMT code on the right hand side at the search prompt. To do this project, you're going to need the following: a fully charged JackBord with the drive wheels attached, and make sure that you fit the trolley wheel like this so that the front two bolt holes are facing outwards, because we're going to basically bolt our claw onto that later on. You're going to need a RC servo mounted on its servo plate, 3 female jumper wires, 1 piece of rubber hose, 1 10x2 angle plate, a dual RC servo adapter, 5 M4 nuts, 5 M4 bolts, and a spanner and an Allen key. Now all of the bits for the servo are in the servo kit, which is linked in the description. Right, to put it together, let's just move that out of the way. Okay, the first thing we want to do is attach the opposing sidearm to the servo. So basically just take 2 of the bolts and hold them in like this. And we want the flat face, so that's this one here, to be on this side. And then just put the nuts on. And if you do it from the top, it's so much easier to get the nuts on and to tighten them up. There we go. And again, just tighten them. They don't need to be fantastically tight, but you also don't want them falling off while you're driving, because that's kind of embarrassing. Right, so that's the sidearm mounted. Next thing we're going to do is fit the piece of rubber hose to the servo. So beforehand you should have set the servo so that the angle is at 0 degrees. So that way when I put the hose on, I just push it onto the shaft like this. When I set it to 90 degrees, it will be here. Okay? And that's basically it for the claw. So the next thing we're going to do is we'll attach it to the front of our JackBord. And to do this, what we're going to do is just use the bolts on the front like so. So you put them up through the front trolley wheel and just hold them in with your fingers. And then we just take our claw and mount it like this. Get it on either side. And then put the nuts on. And that one. And then just tighten them up. And again, they don't need to be spectacularly tight, just tight enough so that it doesn't flop around. Okay, that's brilliant. So now we've got the claw fitted to the front, and it's pretty steady. So the next thing we're going to do is fit the dual servo adapter. So usual thing, take a nut and just poke it through here. I'm putting it over this side because we're going to use port A to control it. Where's my nut gone? Oh, there it is. And there. Again, just bolting it on the side makes it easier to deal with. It's not flopping everywhere and you've got wires all over the place. So the first thing we need to do with the RC Servo dual servo adapter is we connect the power, so 5 volts. We'll just use the 5 volts from port A. Then we connect the ground. And of course the JackBord is turned off while we're doing all of these connections. So that's the ground. And then finally we've got the first servo's control wire, which we're going to put onto port pin A1. So we've got a connection from the blue pin on the RC servo adapter going to port pin A1. The green ground goes to the ground pin on port A. And finally the 5 volt power pin goes to the 5 volt power pin on port A. So lastly we have the servo. And what we're going to do is if you just put a wee knot in the wire, a loose one, it just makes it a bit more tidy. Now for the servo, we want to get it so that the orange wire plugs into where the blue pin is, like this. There we go. So essentially we've got everything connected up. The claw going to the dual servo adapter into the JackBord. Here are some pictures to illustrate how your claw should look. So take a look at each one of them and you can pause the video and just compare yours with what we see here and make sure that everything's connected okay. And remember for this one that if you look on the right hand side where the blue pin is on the JackBord dual servo USI, the orange wire is also above that pin. And that's the end result. Once you've checked all your wiring, turn on the JackBord. Go to the command page and we're just going to test the claw. In the next video, part 2, that's when we'll start using the drive page to control it and so forth. So to begin with, we type SVP space A1 because the servo is connected to port pin A1, and then 0, it will open, and it's already open. Then if we go SVP space A1 space 90, it will close. And you see it's got a bit of an overbite there. So we probably want to use SVP A1, say 75. So that gives us a bit of flexibility because the important thing is you don't want to ruin the gears of the servo. If you had a solid bar attached to this and you overclosed it because it can go to 180, you would actually end up damaging the servo. That's why we have this rubber hose. So in part 2 of this video, we're going to use the drive page to set up the buttons and be able to use them, like these are the buttons here, so we can essentially click on the buttons and control the robot as well as the claw. You can get to the part 2 video by going to jb.works and enter in the TMT code shown on the screen at the search prompt. For more information, visit jb.works.